What's going on, beasts, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover off the final day of our full day of training. This is week 2, session 4. It's going to be our bench session. Of course, our program is primarily a squat program with 3 days a week of squatting. This is just looking at training the opposite side of our body, our pull and push muscles, to make sure that we're not getting any imbalances through our legs, taking over with many of these movements. Today's a pretty simple day as far as movements go. We'll look at bench press, we look at JM press, which is something that I'm still working on. And we've got 3 upper body pulling exercises. We've got our tricep pull downs, we've got our base pulls, and then we finally got our T's to help build that subscapular. As always, if you enjoy the video and you love the program, cheeky little plug-in, check out the website, absolutebeast.org. The program is the 4-week squat cycle. Jump on it now, join me, and we'll get into it together. Hope you enjoy the video, and you guys stay a beast. The bench press day. This is the second time that we've seen bench press in this program for this week, but this is going to be the main bench press session. Now, as mentioned in the introduction, what we're looking at focusing here is to make sure we don't have any imbalances in our upper body, especially when we are looking at progressing to the future with powerlifting. Our first exercise of the day is going to start off with the bench press, and we're looking at 4x4 at 80% of your 1RM. Definitely an aggressive day when it comes to producing maximal force with our bench press, especially at such a heavy weight. Bench press is one of those good things that you don't need much recovery because it is a smaller muscle group. Unlike the squat and especially the deadlift, where you will require 3, 4, or 5 days to recover from certain exercises and certain loads, the bench press is something that you could quite possibly do, have a day off, and then the next day perform another heavy session at a similar intensity. The 4x4 is just looking at getting maximal work in a small amount of volume without having to completely gas our upper body, moving into the next day, which is our week 1, day 5, which you guys have already probably seen. The 4x4 at 80% works out to be roughly about 100 kegers for me, and it's definitely a challenging day, especially if you don't have a spotter. So I'd highly recommend having someone behind you to help support you in this bench press component, purely just because it is so heavy. I don't want us failing and end up being buried or pinned under the barbell. It's never a good feeling when it comes to bench pressing. We want to be as comfortable as possible. The focus with our bench press is always making sure our technique is on point. A lot of people underestimate the ability that your legs have in a bench press. Now, if you're a big flat bencher, go ahead. Obviously, your technique is going to be suited towards your body type and what you prefer and what is more comfortable to you. But I find flat benching is actually more critical on your front delts as far as what kind of damage it can do, because they're exposed so much when that barbell comes down to your chest. That's why having somewhat of an arch, doesn't have to be some ridiculous powerlifting arch, but somewhat of an arch enables us to activate our subscapular and our lats, as well as other muscle groups in our upper back that will help support the bench press a lot better than what it would if you're in a flat bench. Now, bench press is in no means a natural movement. There is not going to be many situations where you have a board behind your back with the leverage of being able to move your arms. The most functional movement when it comes to a press is probably like a floor press. You know, if you're stuck under a car, a beam, or whatever it is, and you're pushing it up, you're going to be arms against the ground rather than that free range of motion that the bench actually gives you. But enough about functionality. Making sure that we are driving those heels into the floor in the bench press will allow us to use more of our quads in the movement, which actually is going to produce more power overall. So keep that in mind with your bench press in the future. 4x4, heavy bench, let's get into it. From there, we're followed with JM press. Now, I'm actually not going to show you any footage of the JM press itself, because I am still looking at mastering the technique of this movement, which is very new to me as well. The movement itself is actually quite a good movement when it comes to producing pressing power from your triceps. It also gives you a bit of rest, especially if you are doing a lot of bench work throughout your week, on your chest and your shoulders, because it isolates the triceps more and forces you to press through with those triceps by keeping those elbows flared out at about a 45-degree angle. Once again, I'm not going to run through the technique in depth. It is something that I'm still working on, and my weight on this particular movement is nothing short of unimpressive. I think one of the weeks I think week by this video that you're watching right now, I'm still on the empty bar, just because I want to master this movement before I start running through it with you guys. To complete off our week 2 session 4, we've got 3 accessory movements to help develop upper back and tricep size rather than strength, but obviously size is a driving factor of strength as well. We've got 3 by 10 to 12, roughly 10 to 12, so you got a bit of range there. Tricep pull downs. We've got face pulls, which is about 3 by 10 to 15 reps, and then we've got T's, and that's just 2 sets of 25 repetitions. Now, all 3 of these are 8 RPE, so it's super easy to kind of gauge. If you did this week 1, you should have written down somewhere your results for that week. So let's say, for example, for me, in week 1, I hit 10 reps at 3 plates on my lat pull down machine. So that I know, okay, that was a 7 RPE, I should be either getting 12 reps at the 3 plates, or maybe even 10 reps at 4 plates this week, which would be considered an increase in weight overall, as well as a progression for that movement. Same with the other 3 movements, the banded face pulls, or even the machine face pulls if you have a machine available. I've got 2 plates down on here as of what I achieved on the day. So next week I'm looking at going for a little bit more if possible. But the goal is to obviously try and make sure we find that rough RPE between that 10 and 12 reps. So for example, if 12 would be my absolute max on this, 10 will be what I'm aiming for that day. And you can actually try it with these movements going to failure on one of the sets, purely just to see where you're at if you're very unsure with those movements. T's with a super light weight. I had 1.25 kilo plates in each hand. You can get really small dumbbells, 1s, 2s for this one. You're not going to need much more than that. Nice and controlled, squeezing the back together at the top of the movement, pausing for a moment, returning to the bottom. That's going to help develop our subscapular a lot more, and it is a muscle group area that is neglected quite heavily when it comes to benching. People work their pressing muscles heavily, but they don't work the supporting muscles that help keep everything together. Now that's it. That is week 2, session 4 is the bench press session. Of course, not a bench pressing program. This is a squatting program, but it is going to be something that's going to give your legs a little bit of a rest. And in the notes, it pretty much just said bench was heavy. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy the 4x4 at 80% as much as I did. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Next week is 4x5 at 80%. So if you are struggling this week, I feel greatly sorry for you next week. But that's it. That's the entire video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, leave a like for the video. If you would like to jump on the 4-week squat program, it is on my website. A shameless plug, absolutebeast.org. Go on that program, get it, join us for the squat. This is the last full session video before we see the actual interesting content, which I know everyone loves, is 1RM week. That's coming up on the next video, and I'll obviously run through that when we get up to it, but it features a 1RM front squat and a 1RM back squat. Hope you guys enjoy, and as always, you guys at home, stay a beast.